So you thought if you just throw a punch, you could make fire or whatever, right? You even thought all those people were just doing martial arts, right? Wrong. There is a lot more involved in order to actually do bending in the Avatar universe, and I'm gonna show you how that works. Also, it's totally magic. You'll see.
Relax, Sokka. Where we're going, you won't need any pants.
First, just in case you don't know about this franchise, Avatar is a pretty big group of epic stories. You might only be familiar with,
but that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
And that's okay, because they did attack, and that's where we get a big problem. The central story focuses on the Avatar awakening and learning to bend all the elements to bring peace between all the nations. There was just a little problem of genocide caused by the Fire Nation. Also, in case you didn't know, there were 3 seasons of the original anime released back in 2005 through 2007, and it's been a crazy big hit and a fun ride, spawning another story, The Legend of Korra, and a film by M. Night Shyamalan in 2010, and a Netflix show in 2024. The purists among us probably still prefer the anime, but that's a different story. Okay, you have the background. Well, with that covered, how do you actually do magic in Avatar? If you're a serious fan, you might be screaming at your screen right now because I said it's magic.
Magic trick. Do it again.
So let's discuss the elephant in the room. I know, technically, according to lore inside the Avatar universe, bending is not magic.
Why is it that every time you play with magic water, I get soaked?
But in terms of storytelling works, yeah, there are a bunch of martial arts sorcerers and sorceresses summoning the elements to their will. It's essentially a magic system. Sure, there are no verbal spells and there are no enchanted objects, but there are certainly rules for creating fire in midair from nothing or telling rocks to pop up out of the ground. It's magic, people. But what exactly lets you be able to do the bending in the first place? There are only 2 conditions that need to be met in order to bend. Well, maybe 2.5? This system gets a little iffy, but we'll get into it. However, before we look at those, where does bending come from in the first place? The answer? Turtles. Yes, super powerful elemental magic comes from turtles. No, not that turtle. Yes, those turtles. Those magical spirit creatures called lion turtles. You see, in the early days of human existence in the Avatar universe, the land was overrun with all manner of creatures and things from the spirit world. This was extremely deadly to humans, and the 4 great lion turtles declared themselves the protectors of humanity and let them build cities on their giant backs to be safe. What does this have to do with bending? Well, each turtle was of a different element: fire, water, earth, and air. When a human wanted or needed to venture off the turtle's back, the turtle would grant them some of their power until they returned. They were ultimately the ones who granted them the ability to bend elements, some 10,000 years ago or so. So the turtles gave everyone bending, right? Well, the people were supposed to give the power back to the turtle after they were done exploring outside the city. So this part gets a little vague because the lion turtles said they wouldn't bestow mankind with the power to bend once the first Avatar awakened. So we have to make an assumption here. It seems quite likely that once the turtles said that they were not going to protect humanity anymore, some people still had the abilities to bend. We know Wan did. Otherwise, it would seem that anyone could become a bender, and that just isn't the case because of one of the 2 conditions. What is that condition? Well, it's your trusty old DNA. That's right, it's in your blood. So in order to bend, you need to basically be a descendant of those people who are granted the ability to bend. But it's not guaranteed. It's actually a recessive gene and could skip generations and then suddenly resurface. Let's look a little deeper. Let's say you have 2 parents that can bend, one with water, one with earth. Does that mean when you're born, you could bend both elements? No. Unfortunately, no one can bend more than one element, except the Avatar. Also, just because you have bendy parents doesn't mean you can bend. However, it is much more likely that you will be able to because of your parents. Okay, so that satisfies the first condition in order to bend. What about the other one and then the half one? Well, the next one is a requirement, but everyone has this regardless of if they can bend or not, and that's called chi. Chi is the next necessity. But like I just said, everyone has chi whether you have the DNA or not. Chi is the energy that resides in all people. The benders are actually manipulating their chi in order to bend. This is essentially both a requirement and how you actually bend. Manipulating your chi is what allows benders to bend. Each elemental group is controlling their chi in order to control the respective element. So, the better you are at manipulating your chi, the better you are at bending. Now, on the one hand, you may say, well, if everyone has chi, why is that even a requirement in order to be a bender? We'll get to that in just a moment, but first, we should cover the last necessity, and that is spirituality or philosophy.
You're fishing for an octopus, my nephew. You need a tightly woven net, or he will squeeze through the tiniest hole and escape.
Okay, your orientation and your spiritual beliefs and thought matter. They can greatly affect how you bend. The air nomads could all bend, every single one of them, and that's because they were deeply spiritual. But what does that mean exactly? And why is that halfway important? Because spirituality isn't clearly defined at all. And in fact, it appears you don't need to be spiritual in order to bend. For example, the Fire Nation essentially did away with their spiritual practices and discovered they could just use rage to fuel their flames. But this gets kind of sticky, mainly because we don't know what spirituality actually means, except some vague notions of being connected to everything. There could be an argument that the Fire Nation were channeling a spirit of rage, so they are still technically spiritual? I don't know. It just looks like they're a big mad to me.
You must do what you feel is right, of course.
Hey, maybe if you have a stronger grasp on what this actually means, you can let me know in the comments. There's one thing that we do know about spirituality, however, and that is that the deeper you go into connection spiritually, the stronger and more enhanced your bending abilities become. And that leads us to potentially losing the ability to bend, and why some of these are necessary components to bend in the first place. DNA, not a problem, straightforward, when you got it, you got it. Spirituality, on the other hand, plays a role in whether you can bend or not. This is really about whether you can lose the ability to bend, not about whether you can bend in the first place. So, our evidence of spirituality playing a critical role with a character named Zuko. Zuko experienced some emotional trauma, and as a result of his bending abilities, were all but gone. We could describe this as a spiritual crisis with a character, but what's technically happening is his inner chi is getting disrupted by his internal conflict. This is another reason spirituality is kind of important, because it affects your chi, but you could argue it's all about chi. In that case, we just have two conditions, DNA and chi. Let's go a little bit deeper. Since it's all about the chi, there are 3 other ways to lose the ability to bend. The first is energy bending, and you can use this to take the bending away from someone else. This is a massive gamble, but if you use energy bending, you run the risk of either losing the ability to bend or straight up destroy yourself. Kind of a big deal. You can also lose bending by running into a blood bender. They can block your chi flow using your own blood. Pretty dangerous. Or you could lose it by getting straight up chi blocked, essentially through pressure points. This can also disrupt your chi flow and thus prevent you from bending at all. Non-benders can perform chi blocking on a bender, so you need to watch out. So that's what actually determines whether or not you can bend, and simultaneously how to bend. That's DNA, chi, and spirituality. When you have the proper genetics, then you will have the proper flowing chi. You can then manifest and control your chi using a combination of your willpower and your appropriate philosophical alignment. This is all kind of condensed into the idea of spirituality, right? Well, there's one other little element, and that is having the will to bend. You have to want to do it, and that should basically be it. Each element has a different technique and philosophy or spirituality to study and practice in order to bend. This is a combination of chi manipulation and properly oriented philosophy combined with will. So whether you're a waterbender, earthbender, firebender, or airbender, it doesn't matter. It's all manipulation of chi and how well you meditate and align on the philosophy of that element. There's one last major component to look at, and that is the avatar. The avatar is the only exception to all the rules.
But that's what makes it fun.
It's the only person that can bend all 4 elements. Without getting deep into the history of how the avatar came to be, the avatar essentially merged with an immortal good spirit to fight an immortal chaos spirit. Because of the fusion of souls with the good spirit Rava, the avatar will reincarnate after every life and is blessed with the ability to bend every element. Now that we've covered all this, throw it all out the window.
Well, scientifically speaking, there's no way to prove that.
Oh, Sokka, just hold hands.
This is a very soft magic system, which means it's almost impossible to track down exactly how it works. Do all the people really have altered DNA? It's nearly impossible to say that definitively. We had to make an assumption earlier on. There's a set of twins where one can bend and the other can't. If it was DNA linked, then they should both be able to bend. The point is, it's a very soft magic system, and even the people of the world don't exactly know why some can bend. But the fact is they can, and it appears to be related to DNA, chi, and your spirituality. So, is that it? Did we cover everything? Did you like and subscribe? Well, you certainly know enough now to understand what determines if you can bend and how to bend, and how they're all intertwined. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Also, if you enjoyed learning about how this magic system works, you might like this video as well. Later.